Stainless Works now has 3 different exhausts: the Classic, the Redline, and the Legend. Let's check them out. What's going on, guys? Matt over here, Lethal Garage, and today I'm bringing you a video that has been the most exhausting video, pun intended, I have ever done in my life. I have shot this video no less than 3 full times. Why? Well, microphones hate me. And you guys don't care about that. You're here for potentially what the new Stainless Works Redline Legend system sound like versus the Classic system. Now, many of you guys know I have a 2016 Camaro 2SS sitting here in the garage doing absolutely nothing right now, and I have the Classic system. I've been running the Classic system for a long time and I love it. I set out to find a specific sound, a specific tone per se of exhaust, and I found it with the full Stainless Works. I originally had the 1 7/8 inch headers. I now have 2-inch headers, but it's the full system basically on my car. So I do have to caveat this because I know not everyone is going to have the full system, and also I have a gutted X pipe versus it's not something you can typically get. So there may be a little bit of variance here, but I think overall you're going to get a good sense of how the Redline, how the Legend, and how the Classic are all going to stack up against each other here. Now, another caveat: exhausts are like girlfriends. Not everyone likes your girlfriend. Not everyone likes, well, I guess it's my wife now, my girlfriend. But you know what? We all like our girlfriends, and we all like our girlfriends for different reasons, whether it's sound, whether it's the way it makes you feel. This is a really weird let's change dynamics here. So exhausts are subjective, super subjective. What I may like and what my ear likes may be completely different than what you will like. And so take all of this with a grain of salt. I do want to heavily highlight, if you guys are interested in an exhaust system, try to seek out someone who has it in your area. Go to car shows, maybe look for someone on Instagram. I always search keyword terms and then maybe try to find someone in my area or ask around car groups and whatnot, see if someone has the exhaust system I like. I actually heard Stainless Works the first time at a Cars and Coffee here in Temecula, and it was just the axle back, and I love the way that it sounded just over the stock setup. So I highly encourage you to do that, go down that path. But in this instance, audio, it is terrible. I have a $200 microphone I am utilizing to capture this audio in the best possible light possible. That's a lot of possibles. But is it perfect? No, it's gonna blow it out. I had a really cheap mic. It was like a $40 mic, and the Redline series blew it out to the point where the mic no longer works. Like, legit does not work at all from the very first video that I did. And I may have made the mistake of doing the video back in my garage, so it reverberating off the wall, and it just, yeah, it wasn't good. And then I had to wait a week to get the new microphone, and then I reshot it, and I wasn't happy with the stuff because I was way too far back. But now I got it. We have the perfect distance, the perfect setup, everything. Lots of driving with the different exhausts to give you a chance. But I'm gonna try to keep this video short, a lot shorter than all of my talking here. So all that being said, we're getting into the Redline, we're getting into the Legend series, and we're getting into the Classic. We're gonna compare the difference. We're gonna check out the weight difference. We're gonna check out how they sound at idle. We're gonna check out how they sound at driving. We're gonna check it all out. I'm using a GoPro Hero 7 with the driving on the back side of the car. I'm using my GoPro Hero 8 with a Rhodes mic on all the idle tests, and there's some interesting tidbits of data I wanna share with you guys here, so let's get into it. So first up, I wanna do the weight test. Primarily because I want to see what they weigh before we start adding weight to them, because exhaust is particles, and I know it weighs nothing, but whatever. So let's get them on the scale. First up, the Legend setup at 20.8 pounds. Now, keep in mind my Classic setup was 17.6 pounds on the same scale, and that was weighed when I first got the product. So 17.6 versus 20.8, so a little bit heavier, times 2 being, what is that, 41 point some odd pounds. So we got the Redline setup coming in at 19.8 pounds. So a little bit lighter, but not as light as the Classic. let's get into the actual exhaust systems. As you can see here, I have a Legend setup and I have a Redline setup from Stainless Works. Huge shout out to Jason over there, who is working with me directly, who agreed to send me these two exhausts for this video. They are the Axlebacks, and as you guys know, I do have a full built 6th gen Camaro. So I am running the 2-inch Stainless Works long tube headers. I have their full catback system, and in this instance, we're literally just removing the Axleback setup to get the difference between them. So everything else is the same through this whole test. I am running C16 fuel in the car. If you're running regular gas or even E85, it will change the sound of the exhaust. E85 will give you a much more muffled tone, or C16 or regular pump gas will really let that cam shine. Yes, I have a stage 3 cam in the car, so again, that's going to make a big difference as well. So take this as a grain of salt, but if you guys have a full built car or looking to go get a full built car, this is what your race car could sound like. Now, again, we've got the Legend, we have the Redline. Actually, if they're mixed up, that's one of the Legends and that's one of the Redlines. Now, before we get into the actual sound tests today, I want to talk a little bit about how Stainless Works has positioned these exhausts in the marketplace. So the classic setup in Stainless Works, just normal across the board, has always focused and has been really proud about being that old school, deep throaty sound, that natural American muscle heritage, and it's what I love about them. And that's not to say the Legend and Redline aren't those things, but that is their heritage, that's what they're known for, but they are moving on to offer more. Obviously, tastes from car enthusiasts change and they start expanding and offering new things. So it's a Stainless Works sound with a twist, I'm going to call that. So they have a Redline setup. That is their new most aggressive setup. Now, what does that mean? Well, from the initial conversation I had with them, the Redline setup is going to be the loudest. It's going to be the most aggressive sound from Stainless Works. It's still going to have the heritage sound, but they're putting a aggressive twist to it to give it a more modern tone. Now, again, it's supposed to be their loudest setup. Now, the Legend setup is supposed to be their most calm. I don't even know if I want to call it calm, because it's still pretty dang loud. And as far as California goes, these are off-road pipes that are far exceed the dBi limitations and in their specific testing. In my testing, the dB levels were a little bit different because we did it 15 feet back, not the California rated distance, but the Legend is going to be the more tame of the two, when I believe, and when I say that, I'm going to say that at wide open throttle, because my results were a little bit varied in the idle setup, and we'll get to that here in a minute. As far as the Classic goes, I'm still going to call it the most raw setup there is. It's loud, it's going to give you that deep American muscle sound. I love it. I love the Classic. I'm hoping the Legend or Redline will give me something new to love, but we'll find out here. But again, I don't know if I fully touched on the Legend, but the Legend is kind of that deeper, I want to say muted, but I don't know if I should say muted. It has a muted tone to it. It sounds great at idle, but when you really get on it, it doesn't have that is crisp of exhaust note that the Classic has. It's a little more muted, whereas like the Redline is just like in your face loud. But again, we'll get to that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we do the drive around, and I'll tell you my experience. So let's hear how these sound. We'll start with the Classic. That is the Classic sound. Again, that's idle, that's in touring, that's in sport track mode. Kind of gives you a little bit of difference. The sound itself at 15 feet away, measured in at 91, 92 decibel levels, and it sounds great. I love the way it sounds. The cam comes across in both setups. I like the Classic, and I wasn't shocked that I love the Classic. Now, hopefully the audio came through pretty decently, but as far as most people know, if you've seen or heard my car in person, you know exactly what the Classic sounds like. But let's check out the Legend setup because I want to go to the quieter side, or at least what's determined as the less aggressive or quieter setup of them all. So let's hear that. That was the Legend setup. I really like the way it sounds at idle. It sounds really good, has a nice deep tone. The dB level is actually a little higher than I thought it was gonna be. It actually matches the classic tour mode. It's, you know, it sounds really good and it's clean, and again, it has that deep sound that I would hope or look for with Stainless Works products. Now we need to go check out the Redline setup to really see, does this aggressive setup change, or is it louder at idle? Now I have to say, guys, I'm a little shocked here because the Redline being the more aggressive setup, it actually wasn't the loudest at idle in tour or track sport mode. Actually, the Legendary setup was louder than the Redline at idle in my instance on my car with my setup. The Classic was by far the loudest at 92 range, whereas the Redline and the Legend were in the 85 to 86, and the Legend would even jump up into the 90s. So I was a little shocked to see that, considering the Redline was considered the more aggressive setup, but again, it's idle, so it's idle. You're really not hearing anything. And if you guys may wonder, Lethal, why didn't you do revs? Well, I didn't want to blow out another microphone. These things were kind of expensive, and I don't make that kind of money on YouTube just to go be buying microphones every time I want to. And on top of that, the microphone's not going to pick up the full rev and how loud it really goes. It's just going to blow it out. Every time I've ever tried, it just blows it out. If you watch any of my old Stainless Works videos, it just blows it out. It's not worth it. Sure, you may be like, oh, that was awesome, but it's like, you're really not going to hear the difference, unfortunately, with my microphone setup, unless you're a multi-millionaire and you have a crazy mic setup that has the proper compression and all that junk and can handle the kind of dBs coming from these exhausts. You're just never gonna really hear the crazy loudness of it all. So now we need to do some driving around. Now I'm going to use some previous footage with a GoPro Hero 8 on my Classic setup, just because I didn't get a chance to drive around in this initial setup, and I have a ton of videos posted about the Classic. All of my racing videos, everything, I have the Classic exhaust installed. I've always had the Classic exhaust installed, so any of my videos you've heard previously up to this point, up to 800 potential videos with exhaust notes and tones, it's there. I'm going to put some links on my initial review when I unboxed and installed the Classic, but outside of that, we're going to focus strictly on the Redline and Legend at this point for driving around, because I've lived with the Classic forever and I know what it sounds like, so I just want to hear what's the difference between the Redline and what's the difference between the Legend. And I have to caveat once again, it's gonna be different in my car. One, in the inside of the car, I can't speak to how a stock car is going to sound, because I have a rear seat delete, I have a deleted X-pipe, well the X-pipe's there, but deleted guts, and it's just going to sound different inside of my car compared to a full interior car that has a rear seat, because it makes a big difference. And if you don't believe me, even with your stock exhaust, go lay down your back seat and drive around. Your exhaust is going to sound totally different to you. So, and the rear seat delete doesn't muffle the sound as much as the stock setup. So again, it's just going to be different. So my response here is maybe a little bit different than what you hear. So I did try to drive around with the windows down. I did drive around with the windows up, and I did some acceleration passes, etc. Drove around with these for a couple days. And I apologize, I didn't get a ton of footage of it all, but I got enough to give me an idea to share my thoughts with you guys. Now, I also have to caveat the sound. Again, these are loud exhausts. My car is a very loud car. So with that being stated, microphone issues is not gonna pick up. The sound is loud as it really is. So if you have a good sound system, I would even suggest if you're watching this video, go watch it in your car and hook it to your Bose surround sound if you have it. It's gonna sound way better than your generic phone speakers or anything like that. It's just not gonna come across on generic speakers. So do yourself a favor, if you really wanna hear how this audio comes across, do it on a good setup. Don't sell yourself short. Check it out on a good audio setup, like a desktop with real speakers, not those $20 Logitech things. Or, I mean, again, just jump in if you have a car that has upgraded audio, check it out in there. It's gonna sound a million times better. So let's go drive around, check these out, and see what we think. Classic exhaust is considered an off-road exhaust. It does drone. So if you're looking for an exhaust out there, the Classic might not be the system that you're specifically looking for if you are not a fan of drone. Now, if you're looking for something that doesn't drone, the Redline and the Legend system are marked as being to eliminate drone. So as far as touring goes, I'm driving around in tour mode, or along with the Classic, I'm driving around in tour mode with my windows down. It's really not that bad in regards to sound. Now, if I swap over to Sport, or we'll go to Track, because even in Sport mode, the valves can close a little bit. It doesn't really change much at low. I'm at 1,500 RPM and the car's just cruising. It's not that bad. Now, if I give it just a little bit more gas, those valves kind of open up a bit more, even in Track or Sport mode, and you can hear it. Now, I'm completely off the gas. The car is cruising right now in Track. And I'll start driving up the hill, give it some throttle, and put it in tour mode halfway up so you can hear the difference. You can see in tour mode, getting on it. Give it enough throttle and then it will start to come in fully. We just have it set up that way at launch, so that way we're not blowing the tires off. So, but once the exhaust gets on it, it's loud. Now, if we go to Track mode, in the car with the Redline exhaust, windows are open, sitting at idle in sport mode, tour mode. As we found out in the idle test, the Redline series actually idles quieter than the other two systems. So let's go drive around, see how she sounds. So in tour mode, driving around, waving at my neighbors. Not that loud. It's actually pretty tame. So if you guys didn't know, in sport mode your valves will still close a little bit. In track mode it keeps them open longer, but will still even close your valves in your exhaust. So that's back into sport mode. I'm gonna go back in track. And again, it doesn't make much of a difference unless you're really getting on the throttle. If you're just cruising, like again, I'm going 20 miles an hour right now. Let's get up to at least the speed limit. So as I get on it, you can start hearing it a little bit. But like last time, I'm gonna leave it in track mode starting up the hill, and then I'll put it in tour mode. Look at the little backfire. That's what we did last time. It's really quiet in comparison to the Classic in my opinion, but the drone is definitely gone. There's no drone with the Redline. I don't know what they've done. It must all be in the muffler. There's obviously a weight distance or difference, so there's some differences there. What they are, I don't know, but I will say, even with the rear seat delete, you don't hear any sort of drone in touring mode. There's a car in front of me, but we'll get on it here. Nice and loud. You can see windows down. Sound is pretty clean. As far as how aggressive, I'm gonna have to get like wide open throttle. There's just so many cars around, guys. I apologize. I'll see if I can open it up like I normally do. Legend system. It is on. We're in tour mode. and we're gonna see how this bad boy sounds and feels. Doing the same exact process we've been doing. Just like the Redline and the Classic. Actually, I would even say it's quieter. It's definitely quieter. Now, Stainless Works has positioned this exhaust as the daily driver exhaust. Now, keep in mind, we have this completely connected to a just about race car setting. So, cul-de-sac. Sorry, my arm keeps blocking the camera on these shots, but they call this the daily driver setup. Now, cruising at 25 miles an hour. It's tame. If we go into sport, I'll just drop it into straight track mode. So we're in track mode now, and again, just like the others in cruising, you can't even really tell the difference of the flaps being open. But once you get on it to go up the hill, so we're gonna go up the hill here and track, and then we'll swap to tour. For sure, driving around, not in idle, but driving around, the Legend system is definitely quieter than both the Classic and the Redline. It's really quiet. Oh, there's a cop up here. So the Legend system has a much deeper tone. Especially going at it, but it's not as loud, not nearly as loud. It's really, I hate using the word muffled because they're mufflers, but it's really muffled. There's no drone for the most part inside like the Classic setup, where you just get that whoa, whoa. Traction's still an issue. But it's definitely toned down. It has that Stainless Works sound, but it's not like crazy pitch loud where people 3 miles from you are going to hear the car. Maybe a mile away, but not 3. So final thoughts. I mean, what do you guys think? Post down below in the comments, but I'm going to share with you what I think. I set out initially with Stainless Works because I loved the sound and the quality that it provided. I knew full and foremost that this setup was an off-road setup. It was gonna drone. I didn't buy this to go daily drive and enjoy an exhaust that wasn't gonna be loud. I want my exhaust loud. I want to hear it, and I want it to be pronounced. And Stainless Works Classic did that for me. I also believe the Legendary system and the Redline system are also gonna do that for you. But when you drive around with the Legend system, it's a lot more quieter. Same with the Redline. It's a lot more quieter when you're at cruising speeds. Now, when you're wide open throttle, it comes to life. The Legend system definitely is louder than stock for sure. I would say it's a lot louder than stock for sure. But with my car, I can't be 100% certain how it will sound if you just have a cat back or if you just throw an axle back. I'm gonna have to take Stainless Works feedback on that and saying it's a little bit louder than the stock exhaust, gives you a nice pronounced tone. That is the Stainless Works trademark sound, but it's not crazy. Now the Redline is just straight bananas. You want a loud, crazy exhaust that has that raspy tone to it. I don't even think raspy is the right word. It's not raspy, it's just aggressive. It's loud in your face, like, hello, I'm a Camaro and I'm coming down the street, kind of like, it's loud. It's a lot louder than the Classic in my opinion, but it's in the pitch. It's not necessarily the sound. I don't know how to explain it. The words are kind of escaping me on this, but if I had to choose between them all, I still like the Classic the best. Now, does that make the other ones bad? Definitely not. They're just, the Classic is that perfect in between of loud at idle, like it's aggressive and loud, the most loud of them all at idle. And when you get on it, it has that distinct deep tone that I love, and that's why I love the Classic. Now the Legend kind of comes at a second because I've been kind of being like, oh, my car is so loud. My neighbors have to hate me at this point. And the Legend would be that perfect system, but no matter how you spin it with the way my car's set up with long tubes and all that stuff, like I made that choice long ago that I don't care, you know, and to set back and be like, oh, I want to kind of muffle it down. It's an unfair thing because the car is basically a race car, and you're just not going to get that with a full open exhaust. Now it's nice with the dual mode, and Stainless Works offers all sorts of options. So if you have your active fuel management, you can add that to it so you can still control it and all that stuff, especially if you have a full exhaust. And I love them for that because they give you the option of dual mode, they give you the option of active fuel management, and it's one thing that a lot of companies don't always do. And you can delete AFM. It just bolts the little module on there and it just thinks it's still there, so you don't get, you know, CELs or check engine lights. So outside of that, overall, I really like all three offerings. It's kind of a breath of fresh air in regards to having options, because before it was just like either you like the Classic or you don't, and so you either bought that or you went with someone else. At least now you have options. So if you want to go the Redline, you want that aggressive sound, get it. If you want something a little bit better than stock, but it's not crazy, the Legend could be the one for you. And if you just want to get all out crazy, go Classic. So yeah, I don't even want to call it a review, but that's my take. That's the lethal take. Either or, thank you, Stainless Works, for trusting me and sending me some product to check out. I really appreciate that. We're gonna do some fun stuff with these two exhausts. So I may or may not have some ideas of what we could do with the Redline and Legend setup that may not necessarily tie to a 6th gen Camaro. So stay with me on that one. I think there's going to be some cool things that I can share in the near future. But outside of that, I do appreciate you checking out this video. I'd love to know what you guys think down in the comments below. The 6th gen's been out for a while. The Classic setup's been out for a while. What exhaust do you love? Did you like any of these better than what you have now? Or are you looking for something and now you're interested in this? I'd love to answer your questions down below if you have them, so post them. Thanks for checking out the channel. Hit that subscribe button for more content, tons more 6th gen stuff. Also, just a massive library, over 800 plus videos. You know, I like my girlfriend. My Classic girlfriend's still my girl. Maybe the Legend could be your girl, or the Redline. So I don't know where I was going with that, but either or, thanks for checking out the content, guys. And until next time, I'll see you on the road.